The front door creaked open as I stepped inside, muscles aching from a 10-hour shift at the diner. The scent hit me first: spoiled milk, greasy takeout, and something sour I couldn't even place. My boots stuck slightly to the linoleum as I stepped into the kitchen. Plates were stacked sky-high in the sink, garbage overflowed onto the floor, and someone had left half a pizza smeared across the living room wall. "Rachel," my mom's voice pierced from behind the stove. "Liam left his wrappers everywhere again. Can you clean it up? Chloe's doing homework." I didn't answer. Just stood there, fingers tightening around my bag strap, staring at the mess like it was speaking to me. That was the night I felt something inside me snap, not loudly, but quietly. Like the last thread giving way. That was the night I discovered the secret my family had been hiding from me for 10 years. I'm Rachel. I'm 22, still living in my parents' house in small-town Ohio. It's not because I want to, it's because I have to. Rent's outrageous, and I've been working double shifts just to save a few hundred a month. Meanwhile, my younger siblings live like they're at a resort. Liam, 18, hasn't worked a day in his life. He spends all day on the couch gaming or hanging with friends. Chloe, 15, scrolls through TikTok like it's a full-time job. And me? I pay bills, mop floors, and make dinner like it's expected of me. My parents? They let it happen. "You're the oldest," Mom says. They're still kids. But I'm still a kid too, aren't I? Or maybe I stopped being one a long time ago. I'm exhausted. Not just from work, but from being the only one in this house who acts like an adult. And I was about to learn why. Thank you for being here. If this hit home, even a little, drop a 1 in the comments. Let's build a space for the ones who are always too responsible. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Someone out there needs to hear this today. The alarm buzzed at 5:45 a.m., but Rachel was already awake. She moved quietly through the dim kitchen, packing 3 separate lunches like clockwork. Her dad liked ham and mustard, Liam preferred PB&J with no crust, and Chloe was on a weird health kick that changed every other week. She didn't bother making one for herself, there usually wasn't time to eat anyway. Coffee went into a travel mug, and by 6:30, she was backing her beat-up Corolla out of the driveway, the morning mist still clinging to the windows. Another long day at the diner waited, double shift, short-staffed, and the cook already hated her for no reason. She wouldn't get home until nearly 8. And no one would notice she was gone. By the time she did walk in that evening, her body was humming with exhaustion. The hallway reeked of damp towels, the bathroom light was still on, and the toilet hadn't been flushed. Again. In the kitchen, the sink was piled high with dishes, some hers, most not. Garbage spilled out of the bin like no one even saw it. The TV blared in the background, and Liam didn't look up from his game controller. Chloe glanced at Rachel, rolled her eyes, and returned to her phone. No one greeted her. No one offered help. She dropped her bag, tied her hair back, and turned toward the kitchen without a word. It had become a ritual by now. The house needed to be cleaned, dinner needed to be made, and no one else would do it. She scrubbed at a dried smear of ketchup on the counter, jaw clenched so tight it ached. Not a single thank you. Not a glance of appreciation. Just silence, and the sound of her brother yelling at a video game as she cleaned up after everyone. Again. It had always been like this. Even when Rachel was little, the expectations were different. "You're the oldest," her mom would say, folding laundry as Rachel scrubbed crayon off the wall. "You're mature. Help more." And she did, she helped with everything. She helped Liam tie his shoes when Mom was too busy. She helped Chloe get through spelling homework. She even helped her mom calm down when bills were overdue or when Dad stayed out too late after work. Keeping the peace became her job before she even knew what that meant. Meanwhile, Liam got away with skipping school projects, and Chloe cried her way out of everything from chores to consequences. Rachel? She wasn't allowed to cry. If she cried, it meant she was stressed out or too emotional and should go cool off. Her smile became muscle memory, a tight-lipped, practiced things she wore like armor. No one noticed when her eyes didn't match. No one asked if she was okay. She was the reliable one. The background support character in her own home. A few weeks earlier, they'd sat down for dinner. Rachel had made spaghetti and garlic bread after working all day. Liam knocked over his glass of juice, drenching the table and soaking through the tablecloth. Without missing a beat, he pointed at Rachel. "You put the glass too close to the edge." Before Rachel could speak, their mom was already turning toward her. "Rachel, can you please stop rushing through things and pay attention?" She stared at her, stunned. Her hands were still red from the dishwater, her back still sore from standing. Dad didn't say a word. He kept chewing, eyes locked on the TV from across the kitchen. No one spoke in her defense. Not even a glance. Rachel blinked slowly, then went to grab paper towels. She got home 2 days later and noticed something was off. Her door, which she always shut before leaving, was slightly ajar. Her stomach sank. Her backpack was moved, her blankets crumpled. But it wasn't until she reached for her journal that panic set in. It was gone. She tore through drawers, under the bed, even inside the closet. Her notes, her sketches, her late-night thoughts, gone. Then she saw it. Torn pages peeking out from the kitchen trash bin. She pulled them out, heart hammering. Ripped, crumpled, and wet. Like someone had spit on them. She knew who did it. Her fingers trembled as she held the shredded pages in her lap, reading words she barely remembered writing. "I feel like if I disappeared tomorrow, they'd only notice because the dishes weren't done." That night, something inside her shifted. Not loudly. Just enough to finally hear it. The sound of herself breaking. She didn't wait long. As soon as Liam got back from the gas station with a slushie in hand, Rachel stood in the hallway, journal scraps still in her grip. Her voice shook, but not from fear. "Did you go through my room?" Liam didn't even pretend. He took a slow sip from his straw and smirked like it was a game. "You mean that little pity diary of yours?" he asked, brushing past her. "Relax, I was just curious." "But wow, you really think you're some kind of victim, huh?" Rachel blocked his path. Her eyes burned. "That was private. You had no right." He laughed, an ugly, condescending laugh. "You really think you're better than us, don't you? Just because you clean a few dishes and make dinner? You act like you're the only one with problems. You don't do anything, Liam. And you act like a martyr. Newsflash, no one asked you to do all that crap." He brushed her shoulder hard on the way to his room, still grinning. "Maybe if you weren't so stuck up, people would actually like you." She stood there in the hallway long after he slammed the door shut, her breath caught somewhere between rage and heartbreak. Rachel locked herself in her room and sat on the floor, the torn pieces of her journal fanned out like broken glass. Her hands trembled. Her shoulders shook. The sobs came quiet and hard, years of being the strong one cracking wide open. She thought about all the times she'd stayed silent. All the times she'd cleaned up their messes and told herself it was just temporary. That one day, they'd change. That if she worked hard enough, they'd finally see her. But they never did. And they never would. She whispered it into the quiet like a truth she'd always known: "If I stay, I'll disappear." She pulled her laptop onto her bed, opened 3 tabs, and started searching. 1-bedroom apartments near Dayton. For the first time, she wasn't waiting for someone else to make the mess. She was making her exit. She moved quietly, careful not to let the hallway floorboards creak as she slipped past her parents' door. It was nearly 2 a.m., the kind of stillness that made every zipper sound too loud, every breath feel like it echoed. She'd packed only what she needed: 2 duffel bags of clothes, her laptop, a box of keepsakes, photos, her sketchbook, and the rebuilt pieces of her old journal now tucked inside a fresh one. No note. No goodbye. Just silence. Rachel took one last glance at the living room. Liam was snoring on the couch, half a bag of chips open on his chest. Chloe's bedroom door was shut, music faintly pulsing from behind it. Her mom's coat still hung on the dining chair, exactly where Rachel always put it after she got home. She shut the front door behind her, slowly. And didn't look back. The apartment was smaller than she imagined, just one bedroom, faded linoleum in the kitchen, and walls that still smelled faintly of paint. But it was quiet. Blissfully, impossibly quiet. She dropped her bags just inside the door and stood in the center of the room for a long time, just listening to the absence of footsteps, of shouting, of demands. Microwave mac and cheese became her first dinner. She ate it cross-legged on the floor, tears slipping down her cheeks, not out of sadness, but something else. Something like release. For the first time in years, she cried because she could. There was no mattress yet, so she folded 2 blankets into a makeshift bed and curled up on the floor. The night air was cool, and the city outside her window was a dull hum, but no one was yelling. No one slammed doors. No one told her she was overreacting. It was strange how foreign peace felt. She reached for her new journal, flipping past the first blank page. Her handwriting wobbled slightly, but her hand was steady. This time, no one's tearing this up. She wrote for an hour, everything she couldn't say at home, everything she was finally starting to feel. And when her eyes grew heavy and her fingers cramped, she placed the journal beside her pillow. She fell asleep still in her hoodie, curled on the floor, listening to the quiet like it was music. It didn't take long. By the second day, her phone was buzzing nonstop. Missed calls. Voicemails. Texts. Her mom went first, her voice already laced with guilt and urgency. "Rachel, you need to come home. The kitchen's a mess, the laundry's overflowing, Liam doesn't even know how to turn on the washer. Chloe's been crying all morning. This isn't like you, sweetie. You don't just walk out." Then came Chloe's message, passive and pointed. "So I guess you just don't care anymore. We're literally falling apart over here and you're just, what? Pretending we don't exist?" Liam didn't even bother with niceties. He sent a single text. "You're being dramatic. Grow up." Even her mom's tone shifted over time, initial guilt laced with sweetness turned sour, then bitter. "After all we've done for you, this is how you thank us?" Her phone lit up morning to night. And she didn't answer a single one. She thought she was getting better at tuning them out, until she listened to one she hadn't expected. Her dad. "Hey, it's me," he began, his voice softer than she'd heard it in years. "Look, I know you probably don't want to hear from any of us right now. And I get it. You're not wrong to be upset." There was a pause. A sound like him shifting in his chair. "But there's something I never told you. Something you deserve to know. I should have said it a long time ago." Rachel sat frozen on her floor, her thumb hovering over the screen. "I can't put it all in a message. But if you're willing to come talk, even just once, I'll tell you the truth." The voicemail ended. No explanation. No details. Just a quiet promise buried in years of silence. Rachel played it again. And again. And then she got in her car. The driveway looked smaller than she remembered, like everything had shrunk in her absence. Rachel stepped out of the car, gripping her keys tighter than she needed to. The porch light flickered, the welcome mat was soaked with last night's rain, and fast food wrappers were scattered near the steps. She didn't knock. Inside, the smell hit her first, rotting takeout, dirty laundry, something burnt. The trash hadn't been taken out in days. Plates were stacked on every surface, crusted with old food. The living room looked like a war zone, clothes, socks, snack wrappers, and silence. Chloe barely looked up from her phone. Liam gave a grunt and went back to his video game, thumb tapping his controller like she was invisible. And then her mom turned from the sink, smiling like nothing had ever happened. "Oh, you're back. Good. We were just about to order dinner." Rachel blinked. Not one person asked how she was. Her dad appeared from the hallway, eyes tired, hair messy, like he hadn't slept in days. "Can I talk to you?" he asked quietly, gesturing toward the garage. She followed him out, into the damp, oil-stained quiet. He shut the door behind them and rubbed his hands together like he didn't know what to do with them. For a moment, he just stood there. Then he finally spoke. "Your mom, she never wanted 3 kids." Rachel froze. "She told me after Chloe was born that she was done. But then you came along." His eyes stayed on the floor. "She called you, the extra one. Said you were an accident she didn't want to repeat. But I couldn't let her." He trailed off, as if finishing the sentence would make it worse. Rachel didn't move. Her ears rang. Her heart felt like it had stopped mid-beat. He looked up at her then, face lined with something like shame. "I should have said something sooner." She couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. Every moment of being overlooked, every time she was told to sacrifice because she was the oldest. It all made sense now. She wasn't just treated differently. She was never wanted in the first place. Rachel walked down the hall in a daze, the old carpet muffling her steps. She pushed open her bedroom door, not sure what she was expecting, but it wasn't this. Cardboard boxes lined the walls, sealed with tape. Her bed had been stripped. The posters she'd tacked up as a teenager were gone, the corkboard over her desk empty. Her bookshelf stood bare. The only thing left untouched was the dust. They hadn't waited long. She stepped inside and slowly knelt by one of the boxes. Her name was written on the side in thick black marker, like she was already gone. She peeled it open and saw her sketchbooks jammed beside old-school notebooks and a cracked snow globe from 3rd grade. They were erasing her, quietly, casually, like taking out the trash. And no one had even asked if she was coming back. Behind her, the door creaked. Her dad stood there, holding a small, rusted key. "There's something else," he said, voice low. "From your grandmother. I kept it." I didn't know what it meant at the time. Rachel took the key from his palm, still warm, and followed him up the attic stairs. The wood groaned beneath their feet. Dust hung in the air like fog. He pointed to a corner behind the Christmas boxes and old suitcases. Rachel dug through, heart pounding, until she found a metal lockbox tucked under a moth-eaten tree skirt. She inserted the key, twisted, and it popped open with a soft click. Inside was a single envelope. Yellowed, sealed, with her name handwritten across the front in delicate cursive. Her fingers trembled as she slid her thumb beneath the flap. The letter was short. Simple. To Rachel. "You were the only one who ever came to visit without asking for anything. The only one who listened. I've changed my will. The house is yours now. Love, Grandma." She read it 3 times. The breath caught in her throat. Her knees weakened. They had known. They knew this whole time. And they never said a word. She didn't storm out of the attic. She didn't scream or cry. Instead, Rachel walked back to her car, let her clutch tight, and sat behind the wheel as the rain began tapping gently on the windshield. Her mind spun, but her hands were steady. That night, in her apartment, she scanned the letter and saved a copy on her laptop. She drove to a 24-hour print shop and made 6 crisp duplicates. One for each person who thought they could pretend she didn't exist, until they needed something from her. She stayed up writing her words. Not a rant. Not a breakdown. A statement. One she'd rehearsed 1,000 times in her head without knowing it. She wasn't coming back to argue. She was coming to end the story they'd been telling about her. Sunday dinner was lasagna, her mom's peace-offering dish. The table was set, the smell of garlic bread in the air, and everyone acting like the week of chaos and silence had never happened. Liam cracked jokes with his mouth full. Chloe was scrolling, earbuds in. Dad gave her a tired nod. Rachel didn't sit. She reached into her bag and placed 4 sheets of paper on the table, one in front of each of them. Her voice was quiet. Controlled. "This house belongs to me," she said. Forks froze. Liam snorted. "What?" It's in Grandma's will. She changed it years ago. She left the house to me. And you all knew it. Her mom's jaw tightened. Rachel, don't be ridiculous. No, she cut her off with a look. You didn't want me here, and now I know why. I was never just the helper. I was never the burden. I was the only one she trusted. Silence. For once, no one had anything to say. Rachel leaned forward, calm as ever. You treated me like I was disposable. Like I was lucky to be here. But this house, this roof you all take for granted? It's mine. She let that sink in. Then she turned and walked out of the room, leaving the papers and their shock behind her. The moment Rachel left the room, the fuse was lit. Her mom exploded first, rising to her feet with a clatter of silverware. She was old, Rachel. She didn't know what she was doing. She was confused. You think a woman her age was making rational decisions? Liam shoved his chair back so hard it hit the wall. This is bullsh*t, he spat. You're not kicking us out. You can't do that. Chloe didn't even blink. She stayed glued to her phone, scrolling like none of it mattered. Whatever, she muttered. I'm not cleaning either way. Rachel returned, slow and deliberate, holding a single manila envelope. She placed it on the table, directly in front of her mother. Her voice was soft, but every word cut like steel. You don't have to believe the truth, she said. It still is. She looked at each of them, one by one. I was never your problem. You were mine. She opened the envelope and slid the contents across the table. Formal documents, notarized, dated, stamped. Her name on the deed. A copy of the will. And a final set of printed notices. I'm giving you 30 days to leave. Legally. Respectfully. After that, I'll take the next steps. You can't, her mother started, but the fight in her voice was already cracking. Rachel turned to her father. You knew. He nodded slowly. No excuse, no defense, just quiet confirmation. For the first time in her life, he didn't try to make peace. He just let the truth sit there. Liam stood frozen, jaw clenched. Chloe finally looked up, wide-eyed, realizing this wasn't just a dramatic speech. This was real. Rachel didn't say another word. She picked up her bag and turned toward the front door. The hallway felt longer than she remembered, the floor beneath her feet softer somehow. Her hand reached for the doorknob, then paused. She looked back once. The dining room was still lit, faces stunned, papers scattered across the table. It wasn't her home. Maybe it never had been. She stepped outside and let the door close behind her. Not with a slam. Just a click. And for the first time in her life, it sounded like freedom. She was halfway down the porch steps when the front door creaked open behind her. Her mother's voice followed, low and bitter. You know what, Rachel, she called out. Since you're so into the truth these days. Rachel paused, one foot still on the step. Liam's not even your brother, her mom hissed. He's your cousin. We took him in after your aunt couldn't get her act together. You think we treated him better? We had to. Because he wasn't even ours. And you, well, you were just the one who had to deal with it. The words hit harder than any scream. Not because they hurt, because they explained everything. Every moment of unfairness. Every time Liam was shielded while she was blamed. Every time she was told to be the example. She stood there, silent, the wind curling around her like the ghost of something that used to hold her back. And suddenly, it all made sense. That's why he always felt untouchable. Why nothing he did ever stuck to him. Why her parents bent the rules for him over and over again. He wasn't even theirs. And yet, somehow, she'd been the one stuck cleaning up after him. She didn't turn around. Didn't throw words over her shoulder. She didn't need to. Rachel opened her car door, slid into the driver's seat, and closed it gently behind her. No dramatic exit. No last-minute glance. Just the hum of the engine and a long, quiet exhale. She didn't just feel free. She was free. I used to think love was something you earned, by staying quiet, by picking up after people, by sacrificing first and being thanked last. I thought if I kept giving, eventually they'd notice. That maybe, just maybe, one day they'd love me back the way I needed. But the truth is, real love doesn't come with a chore list. It doesn't keep score. And it definitely doesn't disappear when you stop serving. They didn't miss me. They missed the things I did, the meals, the laundry, the silence. They missed the convenience of me. And when I stopped showing up for them, they didn't ask why. They just got louder. Angrier. Because I broke the pattern. Because I said no. If you've ever felt like the background character in your own story, if your worth has only ever been measured by your usefulness, this is your sign: walk away. You are not selfish for leaving. You are not cold, dramatic, ungrateful, or wrong. You are brave. Brave for saying, this isn't love. Brave for choosing peace over approval. Brave for breaking a cycle that only ever benefited everyone but you. It takes strength to stay. But sometimes, it takes even more to leave. Have you ever felt like the only one holding your family together, and wondered what would happen if you stopped? What if you let go? What if you chose yourself? Drop your story in the comments. Someone out there is living it right now. And they need to know they're not alone. Because family isn't just the people who raised you. It's not who you cook for. It's not who calls when the sink's clogged or the car won't start. It's not the people who only notice your absence when things fall apart. Family is who would miss you even if the dishes weren't done. Even if the floors weren't swept. Even if all you did was finally breathe.